Welcome to A Better HR Business, the podcast that looks at how HR consultants and HR tech firms grow their businesses and how they help their employers to get the best out of their people. Remember, for show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Okay, let's get started.
Hello, welcome back to the show. Great to have you along. And I'm really looking forward to today's conversation with Tobba Vigfusdottir. Tobba is the founder and CEO of Cara Connect, an amazing customized mental health and wellbeing platform for employees, doing amazing work across Europe and then beyond. And I want to get into what Cara Connect is in a moment. But firstly, Tobba, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Van.
Yeah. Now, look, I don't normally do this to people, but can you just bear with me? Because you've got such a fascinating background. Let me just quickly run through some stuff for the listeners. So you've got a master's in educational psychology from the University of Washington in Seattle, a degree from the University of Iceland, also focused on cognitive psychology. Throughout your career, you focused on the problem of access to help and support. So your experience as a local politician brought forward the systemic problems people face in getting the proper support to get better. You've established an online speech therapy company before establishing Cara Connect. You sit on the National Theatre Board and the Science and Technology Board, appointed by the Minister of Innovation. And you've also been, previous to all this, an elected city councillor in Reykjavík for 12 years, a political advisor to the Minister of Education, and a project manager for a women's entrepreneurial program. Oh my goodness, you've been busy. I have to say that from the start.
Basically tells you my age, yeah?
Timeless, we'll call it that. So I want to get into Cara Connect, but let me start with this, that there's an old book I used to love. Well, I love the topic, the title of it. It's called The Fish Rots from the Head. So we're here talking about workplace mental health. So let me ask you, as the founder and CEO of a leading program in this space, what role does leadership play in creating a mentally healthy workplace culture?
Well, it's just absolutely key. It's the key ingredient in getting your workplace better and healthier. If you have, I wouldn't say a rotting head, but if you have a manager that is stigmatized by mental health or is uncomfortable talking about it, you will have a really hard time as an HR manager to implement good practices. So it has to begin on the top and share story maybe. 75% of CEOs or entrepreneurs have had issues. And they're not necessarily like really, really horrible ones, but they have had issues where they don't want to go out of bed or, all these kinds of really terrible things that happen when funds are done in an entrepreneurial company or you have to fire people. I mean, it's really tough. So they have stories to tell, and getting them to do that is the first step, I think. If they can share even in a smaller meeting with the management, and then everybody starts doing the same, it's just very contagious. So the HR managers need to make sure that they get their CEOs or their managers comfortable. And that is done with a lot of consultants and talking about well-being. What does that mean to the management team? What do you want to have it mean for your people? And we're still stigmatized then. We have people now just laughing at the Gen Z, which is coming into work and talking about their mental health. There's talking about them as snowflakes and all these. And this is something that has to be eradicated in discussions. And managers need to talk about how they're going to welcome this generation.
You would think we would have turned the corner with the COVID, the pandemic, pushing everyone remote and all that sort of stuff. And that raised awareness of mental health and stuff. So I would have thought that would make the conversation easier, but sounds like no.
Yeah, it's definitely done that. And we see it's not lowering after COVID. The incidence percentage of mental health is still rising. So we definitely moved the needle. I've been building this company now for 10 years almost. And you need to be like a manager. It needs to always be energetic, powerful, bringing forth a vision. And it's a little bit hard to kind of step down from that stool and talk about mental health or problems. And you're just always transferring your energetic behavior to everybody in the team. But there's a reason for managers being managers. They are a little bit more energetic and, powerful in some sort. You have to kind of step into other people's shoes and think, how can I help them be managers? And that means talking about feelings. It's still stigmatized in companies. banks have really a tough time talking about this. They're very competitive jobs, so nobody shares. And the managers always think, I've been doing a lot of work and it's been tough, it's fine. But the definition of tough is just different for different people.
So if I turn then to Cara Connect, what actual services do you provide? How does it work? How do you help organizations improve workplace well-being?
So the idea initially was trying to make sure that people have access. The access problem is much bigger than I think systems realize. Everybody has a waiting list everywhere, but we have tons of amazing practitioners all over the place. So the idea was to connect all these practitioners into a portal, just like a booking.com or an Uber. But to do that, you had to work on a very secure portal for the practitioners. We have access to 3,000 of them, and about 700 have been vetted on these portals. And they can use Cara Workstation for all their work. So we're just giving away to them a very nice and secure workstations for private and sensitive discussions and all these things. And when we've done that, we were able to turn them around for different companies. And so we customized wellbeing hubs for companies. So let's say we're speaking to Shell or any company, so we can build a Shell access point or Shell wellbeing hub, we used to call it. And we talk to the HR team and the management team often to decide what kind of practitioners they want to offer to their employees. And that's the learning in the last couple of years, is that no wellbeing hub is the same, which, tech-wise, you would think that everybody would want the same things. But actually, it represents the cultural aspects of the company, what's there. So some company are, thinking about an employee as not one person, but a family. So there's an access point for children and dependents. Others are just wanting mental health, and the stigma is a little bit too high. It's just like thinking that is the only thing that people have problems with. But most of them have, the first four are mental health professionals, nutritionists, sleep therapists, and financial services. And then number 5 would be coaching. And then the coaching would depend on, if it's a young retail company, we have a lot of young people. If it's a university, we have a lot of older women. So it really is nice and interesting to see how they build. And so we offer them this, and then the company decides if they pay 6, 10, 3 sessions per person, and we take care of the rest. So the employee only has to access the hub, book, and he gets a session immediately, no triage. And they will be able to find their cultural background in there and the languages and locations. We do also offline services. And then Cara also has a critical incident support for the HR managers when there's a serious incident in play. So we do this with the company, so we get to know them very well and support them quite a lot.
So from the employee perspective, the company sets up their wellbeing hub through Cara Connect and then works out the level of support, the range, I guess. And then if you want to contact someone to speak to a professional, just go into the hub, select, as you said, maybe language, location, things like that, or areas of expertise, and just book the session.
You just book like you're booking a table in a restaurant, and you get the automated text messages and email, and it's in your calendar, and you are completely confidential in this. The only thing that the HR managers see is actually usage, and they see it's being used. They can leave a very nice note, the employees, to show that they got better. And then if you've finished your 6 sessions, so you could jump around, you could see a nutritionist and a sleep therapist, so you can use your credits for everything that is in play. And then you can start paying with a credit card if exhausted your credits. And we have, on average, over 20% usage in a company.
Wow.
That's really through the roof for our competitors, at least. And actually smack on the dot of how many people need help every year.
I don't know where Cara Connect was when I was an HR manager in businesses trying to report back on EAP usages. You felt obliged to offer it. Every company offers an EAP, so we should probably have one, that kind of thing. And then no one ever rang it. And if, as you're describing, the way people use it, like booking a table at a restaurant, and it's tailored to language, situation, personal need, locality, etc., versus an EAP where it's Where I'm from, it was a 1-800 number. You never know what's going to be on the other end of the line. Is it some personal work experience, working out how to give some advice on something, or is it just random? And sometimes it's good just to talk, but you're talking about the whole next generation of what people need, when they need it, in the way that they want it. Like, it's miles ahead.
Completely changed the world, completely. You might be spiritual and you want to talk to someone that is inclined to talk about spiritual things. You might want to talk to a nutritionist. These things that may be keeping you up at night and it affects you as a person at home. I mean, we just seen a major shift towards talking about menopause, and it turns out that women have been burnt out, marked and labeled as burnt out because of menopause. We have all these things going on that we're still figuring out. And there's a lot of movement on the brain and what's happening and how the brain works. And we're actually seeing first results showing cognitive decline for the first time ever in the brain. So there's a lot of things that we now know that we didn't know before. And then everybody has an issue that they want to talk about and figure out themselves. And the best story is, of course, somebody that wanted to come out as gay, and finally somebody offered him like a platform to talk to someone. He wouldn't, call a friend to say, who should I talk to because I want to come out as gay. This is, if you kind of build something that actually fits the purpose, I think we've won. That helps so much, and the company is actually very generous. And coming back to your first question, it has to be in the manager's mindset that they want to do this. Otherwise, we'll never be successful as a partner with a company. It has to be the managers.
Thinking to something else from my HR days, I was talking about the EAP, but another big challenge, the employee attraction, retention, and we could offer them free lunches on a Friday or the foosball table or something like that. But this is, again, so much more advanced that it's helping people in a way that affects their lives, because we know we don't just, unless it's that Severance TV show thing, we don't just separate our lives.
No.
The minute we walk in the door.
Work has to blend. Otherwise, you don't have friends really at work. So the lunch is really important. I'm not going to say, this replaces that, because you need camaraderie in the office. But you have a lot of people that don't want to share what's going on. And a lot of, the Nordic model was never this phone number. So I didn't really, when we started, we never knew about this phone number EAP.
Really?
We were just making sure we had more access and quicker access points and diversity. I mean, even the Nordics have 25% of their workforce now with different languages than the Scandinavian languages. So coming into the UK and Ireland, the EAP number is from the 1940s. It's way time change. Honestly, the EAPs are doing their best, but it's just not working anymore because there's a lot of problems in people's minds.
I turn to what you're seeing in the workplace. What are the main or most common mental health and wellbeing challenges you're seeing in the workplaces these days?
So we hear that the line managers are very ill-equipped with offering support. When we launch, we meet all the line managers and tell them how to use this. And they're very thankful because they're taking these problems home and then asking their wives or spouses, what should I do? Do you know a psychologist? And trying to figure it out. And the HR manager says that the issues come way too late to their table. So this is kind of the flow of, the line managers trying to help, but doesn't have any tools. And then the HR managers are usually doing crisis management, basically. So they're seeing a lot more hours go into these personal issues. We're also seeing the hybrid work is affecting because people get more lonely, they're not meeting as often. So many of the companies are struggling trying to find days where everybody's in and not allowing online meetings those days, because it doesn't make sense that you come in, but half of your time is online anyway. So that is a tricky one, bringing everybody in to make something nice happen and work through. So the HR managers have this on their desk right now. And then there's a Gen Z, like I mentioned before. They're not really understanding them and kind of thinking that parents did something wrong, but they're actually amazing, in my opinion. They're very, very smart. They're smartest generation yet. And they don't tolerate stupid work. They're very like, why are we doing this way? But then again, they have problems with mental health, a lot of stress because of social media. And then a lot of them have diagnosis and they have been in schools, and the schools have allowed them more time for tests and all kinds of various things. But when you come to the workforce, this is not like in place. They have a tendency to have a communication problem. They tend to just walk out and leave the job, but don't talk to anybody about the problem. So the HR managers are saying, they're just not telling me what's wrong, but they're telling me what to do in the job and all these kind of things. They seem to not want to share why they don't like work. And they're very impatient. And I can see that. I have 4 Gen Zs. You can see that they are like, you have to kind of slow them down to write papers and things like this. Takes time. Your brain needs to think about this. They're very used to doing dun, 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 a video and it's out. But longhand things are annoying for them, which is not good because that's what the brain is actually working really well. We're in like a time zone now with the social media having had impact on a whole generation, and we're just about to speak about it, but the generation is already at work.
With that generation, but also with the broader workplace, you've probably seen a lot of different approaches to mental health at work, and you've probably seen some ineffective, some bad ways of handling it. So what are some of these ineffective ways you've seen companies try to address these challenges?
I think everybody is seeking out good ways to help. I mean, they are empathetic, and usually the culture teams or HR teams are very empathetic people. But they're struggling with figuring out who to send them to and who to call. Following up is hard. Did you go and see that person? Did you get that coach to help you? It's a lot of things that you have to hold to account, which is very important. I mean, if a line manager offers somebody to use Cara Connect and then you meet them 2 or 3 weeks later and you have to say, did you use it? Are you getting help? Try to kind of follow up. I think we haven't done anything technologically yet to help with that. But, this is important, that people are not just thrown something and then nobody checks in. I think this is the biggest problem, the following up. They know there's a problem, they threw them something, and then no follow-up. So I would, recommend that people kind of log in to their calendar, check in with X. The second thing that is happening, it's very much in the UK and Ireland market, is a mental health ambassador. So the company's training a group of people that take on this role. And I have some reservations with this. I think always good to have people knowing everything about mental health, but they're not necessarily going to work as a confidant, because you will not, by research, you will not confide in people until you know them for 200 hours. So that's friendship, basically. Going to someone that has a badge that says I'm a mental health ambassador is not necessarily going to move those that are most hurting. So they might need to change the role a little bit to talk about this and be the person that talks about things. And I know they are. That's amazing. But they won't be the confidant that you need to get people to talk to. So I think that needs a little bit of a reshaping. But companies are trying hard to implement all kinds of things to make this better.
I could certainly, with my HR hat on, I would say, well, mental health care professionals have studied 4, 8, 12 years. So sending someone away for a 2-day workshop on how to be a mental health ambassador, it's a nice idea, but I would make them more about facilitating communication about the services or the support that's available, a conduit rather than...
Yeah, be the signposting person.
Yeah.
Has to be a second step.
Yeah.
Not sure everybody has that. That is the EAP, that's the phone number. But the distrust to that number is just phenomenal. I mean, people just don't want to talk to someone on the phone and then wait for 4 weeks to get an appointment with someone. It's over, basically.
In my experience, it can be very difficult to get healthcare professionals, and whether that's EAP support, and even just you hear about in many countries, there's delays with healthcare bookings, GPs and healthcare professionals. If a company wanted to set up a hub through Cara Connect, what is the kind of delay? Is it fast for people to access this support? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's maximum 48 hours.
Oh, wow.
And you can book Saturdays or evenings, or depending on the choice you make, of course. And then we try to have psychologists around the area of work, because many people are not comfortable with the online.
Sure.
And some just own a phone, and it's not very good. We are now in 2 computer screens, totally different than talking on a phone. So we try to make sure that that is available as well, very close. And the practitioners, the idea of the waiting list, so because I was a politician before, I'm still kind of speaking out a little bit, saying there are no problems as a waiting list. It's just the access point problem. Who to see, who is the right match for me. The availability of choice is super important for you to fix your mental health, because you might be struggling with totally different things than the next person. So a psychologist can be focused on communication skills and relationships, and another one would be OCD and PTSD. So you have to kind of figure out, who should I talk to? And then the hub would then also, if I would be really stigmatized and I was really having troubles with my stomach from stress, I would maybe start talking to a nutritionist. But the nutritionists are trained to see quickly if this is a stress problem or not. And they should then signpost you to a professional on the hub that does that. So we are trying to make sure that the practitioners all know what company is, what the struggles are, what kind of people work there. So they will be quick analyzing and asking the right questions.
I was mentioning before about employee attraction and retention, but I didn't quite put my recruitment hat on and think that's a great attraction tool to say, look, you've come here, we're going to give you interesting work, career, etc., but you'll also get supported as a whole person.
And, I'm not usually one to brag, but we're getting really nice testimonials from both HR managers and employees. They're just so thankful that somebody just put this in front of them and they were actually able to do something about their problem that many years have passed maybe. And HR managers are seeing, if somebody is really hurting and needs more sessions, they are to approve that. And so they trust the psychologist of saying, I need to see this person more. And HR managers love that as well, that somebody is stopping and saying 3 or 6 sessions is not enough for this person. That's like the first question, Ben, that I get. Like, what about people that are really hurting? And we answer that. And that's a really big problem for them. Like, how can I really help the ones that are really struggling?
Just as we start to wrap up, you've been in business a long time. You've achieved so much. And Cara Connect has been expanding rapidly across the Nordic region and across Europe, including Ireland, UK. What's worked out well in terms of business growth and getting the word out about the business?
Well, that's a good question. I think trust. I think we will never survive unless they trust that we know what we're doing, and they trust the product and they trust the practitioners. So our growth has been word of mouth. We're just about to start some marketing. We just started this year, the first marketing processes. We'll see if that works. So I hope to tell you a little bit differently this later year, but the market just responds quite well. And as you probably know, HR managers don't stay in one place for a long time. And they have been moving and they are implementing in another workplace. So they really love it. So it's really a good story. So we're working now on real stories to publish those and case studies. So I think for me, I'm more of a visionary in this than a business person. And I believe that trust in this game is the main thing. And that's why we do a lot of security work and a lot of vetting for the practitioners. And if there's an issue, we have meetings with the practitioners. So we make sure that everybody in the 3 stakeholder group that we have trusts the product. I think that should be the reason, but maybe someone else will tell you otherwise. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like it's having a huge impact. It's helping people, it's helping companies. And yeah, I love that you bring that Nordic approach to places that still rely on the 1-800 number. So thank you for that. If people want to learn more about Cara Connect, explore how to better support their teams, mental health, maybe become a customer setting up a hub, what should they do next? It's
our website, basically, www.caraconnect with a K, hr-managers.com or LinkedIn for me. I use LinkedIn quite a bit. HR managers are there and the practitioners as well. So that would be a very easy one. I'll connect immediately.
Excellent. So caraconnect.com. Tobba, thank you so much for sharing your story and the whole Cara Connect story. And I wish you all the best for the future.
I wish you luck and thank you for good questions.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us today on A Better HR Business, the podcast that explores the world of HR consulting and HR tech businesses. For show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Remember to subscribe and share the show with any friends who are busy growing a HR business. Thanks and see you next time.